you got to remember that from a Brazilian perspective, the easiest way to get into the national team is to play for one of the big clubs in Brazil. Flamengo. And Flamengo are huge. I think people realise just how big they are. Possibly the biggest club outside Europe.
Change of scene. I want to go home. I want to go to Flamengo. We know you want to go to Flamengo. We know they're one of the biggest clubs in South America. They're the champions of South America, champions of Brazil as well.
He only wants Flamengo. It's not anti-West Ham.
E fala, galera, mais um vídeo aqui para o canal. E a mídia inglesa, galera, que tá impressionado com o Flamengo, tá contratando o Lucas Paquetá, né? As negociações tá avançada, né? E os ingleses estão impressionados com o Flamengo, né? Até porque tá tirando um dos destaques aí da Premier League e jogador titular do West Ham, né? Mas, galera, já deixa nos comentários aí o que vocês acham dessa contratação do Flamengo, Lucas Paquetá. Mas, galera, já fortalece aí no like, é muito importante na entrega do vídeo. Se inscreve aqui no canal, já deixa o seu comentário que eu tô sempre respondendo. Compartilha aí com seus amigos. Hypa também é muito importante. E ativa o sininho para não perder nenhum vídeo. Mas chega de enrolação, vamos ver a mídia inglesa impressionada com o Flamengo tá contratando Lucas Paquetá.
Paquetá at West Ham. He wants to get out, he wants to go back to Brazil. How difficult is that for West Ham to navigate this situation, Carve?
Very, very difficult. I think the reason he wants to go back to Brazil is purely for personal reasons.
Yeah.
For his own happiness and the happiness of his family, he just wants to go home. Of course, everybody knows that he's been deeply affected by this FA betting case, which threatened to end his career. Back in July, he was cleared of spot fixing charges after a 2-year investigation. So for 2 years, he had this hanging over him. And now he just feels, you know what? I want a change of scene. I want to go home. I want to go to Flamengo. Now, the only issue is that West Ham are deep in relegation trouble. They're 7 points away from safety. Can they really afford to sell their best player? How would it look if the board sanctioned his sale?
But how do you keep an unhappy player who wants out? What do you do?
Well, do you sit down with him and say, please, Lucas, look at the situation we're in. Just hold on until the summer. We'll see what we can do in the summer. We know you want to go to Flamengo. We know they're one of the biggest clubs in South America. They're the champions of South America, champions of Brazil as well. We know the Brazilian transfer window is open until March, but please just bear with us. Give us another 5 months. Try and keep us in the Premier League. Then we will revisit this. I think the other issue is the money Flamengo are putting on the table is not going to be enough to tempt West Ham at the moment. I think at the moment they're offering around 30 million euros, which is 26 million pounds. That is not enough for West Ham.
But Mark, we saw Lucas Paquetá get that red card. He's clearly very emotional. The whole situation has been difficult for him. If he says to West Ham, I want out, surely they've got to let him go, whether there's enough money on the table or not.
Absolutely, and that's the problem. Do you have an unhappy player who can't contribute to the team, or do you just have to accept, actually? I did an interview with David Sullivan, who had a very similar situation with Dimitri Payet, who was desperate to leave, absolutely desperate to leave, said he's never going to play for the football club ever again. Let me go. If you don't let me go, I won't go. And in the end, they sold him for what they believed less than market value. But David Sullivan's mantra was, I cannot keep an unhappy player at the football club. Despite what I believe are the best interests in the football club, I have to do what's right for the player as much as myself and the team. Carver made a really interesting point there. The Brazilian transfer window is open until March. Maybe, possibly, could there be some sort of agreement? They say, look, Lucas, give us everything you can for the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Let's get us away from the bottom three. And if we're in a healthy, safe position before the Brazilian window shuts, then we will talk about potentially letting you go. But we need everything for the next 6 or 7 weeks.
But the problem then would be, if they were to sell him in March, they wouldn't be able to sign a replacement.
But if they sign a replacement now,
then
they've got one through the door.
If they sell him, they're going to have to sell him now. I would make the point as well that West Ham don't want to sell him. West Ham have not received any formal offers for him. Another point I would make is that it's got nothing to do with money. If he was to return to Flamengo, he would be taking a pay cut. This is just for personal reasons only. That's what it's about.
Just one point you made
Go on,
there about
go
the
for it.
red card. He is the type of player you might need in a relegation scrap because
Well, you
he's got that
definitely need.
emotional presence. He's got that physicality. He's not.
He's a really good player.
He's a top player. Linked with Manchester City
Yeah.
at one stage.
85 million.
He brings so much. And actually, right now, that's probably what you need in this environment. You need character, you need personality, you need players that wear their heart on their sleeve and they're prepared to give everything for the team. And again, that's another reason why West Ham would say, at the minute, we can't let you go. No win in their last 10 Premier League matches. They're under serious pressure. 7 points the gap with a weaker goal difference. And losing the star man alongside Jarrod Bowen could be disastrous.
Best. He's known by many of you as the South American football expert. It is, of course, the one and only Tim Vickery. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on the channel. How are you?
Very well, yeah, and looking forward to kicking the ball around with you over the next few minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, there is, of course, one story that we've got to start with, and that is, of course, Lucas Paquetá. Now, we're hearing quite a lot of conflicting reports over in the UK about his future. It started with initial reports that the player didn't want to play, then others that he was actually injured, alongside news that obviously he wanted this move back to Flamengo and that significant discussions have been taking place. From a West Ham perspective, we're talking about one of the players that was definitely in Nuno's plans to keep West Ham in the Premier League. The timing of this, it makes it a real challenge, but we're also looking at a player that has clearly struggled with the FA allegations, and he's now looking to return to a club that he started out at and clearly has a lot of love for as well. There are almost three angles here: the player's preference and World Cup hopes, then you've got Flamengo's ambition, and you've also got West Ham's needs. But I'm going to have to start with a big question for you. We heard that there was a decisive meeting taking place, apparently potentially today. What's the latest that you've heard on this in Brazil?
Well, item 3 that you mentioned there is the most important one, didn't it?
Yeah.
What are West Ham going to do? Because item 1 and 2 are pretty much cut and dried. He wants the move, and Flamengo want the move. So it's all up to West Ham now, and how flexible are they going to be, and what are they going to do? Because they're in a tricky situation. So let's unpack the 1 and 2 first. Why he wants to move. Firstly, it means running away or getting away from a place that has maybe traumatic memories for him because of that FA investigation. We can talk a little bit about that later if you want to, although there are lawyers hanging around, so we'll tread carefully. When the whole thing started, looked like he was on his way to Man City. Now, obviously, that ship has sailed. So if he can't get a Man City, and it seems that the main interest at the moment, if he were to leave West Ham and stay in England, is Tottenham. If he can't get a club that's fighting for the titles, why not go home? Especially because we're in the build-up to the World Cup. This is absolutely vital. This is a lot of players will be trying to reposition themselves, a lot of South American players, because of the World Cup. Now, he has featured in Brazil squads when he's been available pretty much always over the past few years. I know a lot of West Ham fans are quite surprised about that, but he's an important player for Brazil, or has been an important player for Brazil. Now, the way that Carlo Ancelotti seems to want them to line up is with 4 up front and only 2 in midfield. Whether he's going to be able to do it, and the 2, one of them, Casemiro, is going to be 34 soon. It's Casemiro and Bruno Guimarães. Whether you're going to be able to do that in the extreme heat in which the World Cup has been played, I think that's an open question. So the alternative there is to play a 3rd man in midfield. Lucas Paquetá is the lead candidate for that role, but his major competitor is a fellow called Gerson, who left Flamengo in the summer, made a bad move to Zenit in Russia, lost his place in the national team squad, but has now moved back. He's gone to Cruzeiro. So he's back in Brazil. And so Paquetá is clearly thinking, and I'm told from sources close to Paquetá, he doesn't see himself at all as guaranteed in the World Cup. So he's been a bit rattled by that, maybe. So he's thinking, I want to go back. No, because there is, you got to remember that from a Brazilian perspective, the easiest way to get into the national team is to play for one of the big clubs in Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real resistance in Brazil about people being called up from what are seen as smaller clubs in England. And by smaller clubs, I mean those who are not in contention for the series titles, which is a lot of them,
Yeah.
So you can see the angle of the player moving back from the point of Flamengo. And Flamengo are huge. I think people realize just how big they are, possibly the biggest club outside Europe. Brazil has a very, very unequal TV deal distribution.
Okay.
So it's the difference between the club receiving most, which is Flamengo, and the club receiving least is 7-1. That's a huge, huge difference, and it means that Flamengo have money.
Start with this one, Gio, and then pick and choose as you see, and I think we'll just go from there. Really, we've obviously had our little talk about Paquetá in our individual videos and in the preview, which has gone up live about an hour ago. What's your hunch? What do you think is going to happen?
I think he'll go. I think the club at the end of the day, Monday, their stance was he's not for sale. Thursday, it's, well, we will sell him, but can you loan him back? We've changed our stance already. We've gone from he's not leaving to he is leaving, but here's our conditions. And by the sounds of it, Flamengo say, we don't want your terms and conditions. And the club are backed into a corner here because Paquetá wants to go. And I think the club have to be very, very careful. And it's because the Brazilian transfer window runs until March. There is a possibility that come February, he says, I'm not playing anymore, thank you. And we have got to sell him. We've got no transfer window. So I think the club have to act now. They have to let him leave. I think the whole thing is an absolute shambles. It's honestly pathetic what I've seen this last week from everyone involved. The leaks coming out of the club is a complete and utter embarrassment. And if Paquetá was the only player that wanted to go, if I was currently at the club, I'd be thinking, I don't want to look at this. The guy's homesick, wants to go home, tells the club. And before you know it, it's everywhere that he's on strike and he's faking injuries and stuff. The accusations coming out of the club regarding Paquetá is quite wild at the minute. Now, they may be accurate. We don't know. I tend to find there's three stories, his side, her side, and the truth in the middle.
Yeah.
My interpretation of it, he wants to go back to Brazil. He's told the club he wants to go back to Brazil, and the club ain't happy, so they've decided to throw him under the bus. And now Paquetá's doing his own PR game here because the Brazilian media are singing off the same hymn sheet, which is he only wants Flamengo. It's not anti-West Ham, it's pro-Brazil. That's what they're saying. And I'm inclined to believe that. I do just believe that he just wants to go home, and I'm okay with it. But this didn't have to be this ugly. I'm not surprised it is, but I'm bloody pissed off it is.